The storm hit the city like a warning from the sky, the kind of rain that blurs streets, swallows headlights, and forces people to run for shelter. But in the middle of that chaos, a man in a cheap plastic poncho kept walking slowly, carefully holding an old umbrella over the head of his little daughter who clung to his leg. Anyone passing by could tell he wasn't a man with much to give, yet somehow he carried himself as though he was determined to protect everything he had left. His name was Daniel Ward, a single father, a night shift janitor, and a man the world had worn down but not broken. Tonight, his life was about to collide with someone who lived in a world completely opposite his own. And the moment he decided to help a stranger in the storm would set off a chain of events that neither of them could have imagined. Daniel had been walking his daughter home from the small grocery store where he bought only what he could afford: bread, milk, and a single packet of noodles his little girl had begged for. He worked 2 cleaning jobs, spent his nights scrubbing floors and cleaning offices after people who would never learn his name. But he always made time for Emma. She was the reason he was still standing. The reason he kept going after his wife passed away 2 years earlier, leaving him drowning in grief, debt, and responsibilities no parent expected to shoulder alone. He had learned to sew buttons, fix hair ties, pack school lunches, and smile through exhaustion. He wasn't perfect, but he tried, and Emma loved him for it. As lightning tore across the sky, Daniel spotted a black SUV stuck at the corner, its rear tire lodged in a pothole overflowing with water. Most people hurried past it, too busy shielding themselves from the storm. But Daniel paused when he saw a woman struggling to push the heavy vehicle alone. She wore a uniform, soaked from the rain, her cap tilted down to block the water. Even through the curtain of falling water, something about her posture showed discipline, authority, and strength. He didn't know who she was, only that she needed help. He put Emma under the awning of a nearby building, handed her his grocery bag, and rushed into the storm. The water soaked his cheap shoes instantly, but he braced his hands against the back of the SUV and pushed with everything he had. The wheels spun violently, splashing water, drenching him even more. For a brief moment, the woman looked surprised. People rarely came back to help her when she didn't command them to. Something about Daniel's quiet determination struck her. With one final push, the tire lifted out of the pothole, and the SUV lurched forward safely. The woman turned to thank him, but he was already jogging back to Emma, picking her up gently and shielding her once more under the torn umbrella. The woman watched them for a few seconds through the rain-soaked window of her SUV. A single dad, dripping wet, holding a child with the kind of tenderness she had rarely seen in her world of discipline and command. Then she drove away, assuming that was the end of their moment. But fate had different plans. The next morning, Daniel went to the Naval Academy where he worked as a nighttime janitor. He checked in, took his cleaning cart, and started his usual routine of sweeping empty hallways and mopping floors polished with the footsteps of officers and cadets. He had learned to make himself invisible, people liked him that way. He avoided trouble, stayed quiet, and worked hard. It was the only way to keep the job that paid for Emma's school fees. He didn't know that the woman he helped last night was none other than Admiral Catherine Hale, the youngest female admiral in the region, known for her discipline, brilliance, and the intimidating aura she carried. She rarely showed emotion, rarely trusted anyone, and rarely forgot an act of kindness. This morning, she walked into the academy with the storm on her mind and the image of a drenched man shielding his daughter like she was the only thing he owned. Later that night, while Daniel was cleaning the Admiral's corridor, he paused when he saw a photograph on her office wall, a woman in a naval uniform standing before a fleet. He felt a strange sense of familiarity in her face. When he turned around, Catherine Hale stood behind him, watching him carefully. He froze, thinking he had done something wrong. But her voice softened. She thanked him, not with the casual gratitude she gave officers, but with a sincerity that almost startled him. She remembered his face under the rain, the way he didn't ask who she was, didn't hesitate, didn't fear her rank. Daniel simply nodded and tried to continue his work, but something in her expression told her he wasn't okay. And she was right. His daughter had been coughing all day, and he didn't have money for proper medicine. But he didn't say anything. His pride refused to let his struggles spill out. Over the next few weeks, the Admiral found herself noticing things she hadn't before. She saw the tiredness in Daniel's eyes, the way he stretched every paycheck, the way he carried his responsibilities with the quiet strength of a man who refused to give up. She started leaving small things for him without explanation: extra cleaning gloves, packed food, a medical brochure left on his cart. She never said it was from her, but he knew. And he appreciated it more than she realized. One stormy evening, Daniel brought Emma with him to the academy because he couldn't afford a babysitter. She sat quietly in a corner, drawing pictures while he worked. Admiral Hale passed by and saw her. For the first time in years, something in her heart softened. She sat with Emma, listening to her small voice describing her drawing, a drawing of her father pushing a car in the rain. Catherine felt the lump in her throat. Emma noticed the Admiral's quietness and, in the innocence of a child, reached out and held her hand. It was something Catherine hadn't felt in years: warmth, connection, softness. Over the months, Catherine quietly ensured that Daniel received better shifts, bonuses, and safer work conditions. She never announced her involvement, but she watched from a distance as his life slowly stabilized. Emma's health improved. Daniel started saving again. He bought better school supplies for his daughter. And for the first time since losing his wife, he felt hope returning in small, gentle ways. But life, unpredictable as ever, had one more test waiting. One night, Daniel failed to show up for work. The academy staff assumed he had quit. But Catherine felt something was wrong. She drove to his address, a small, worn-out apartment on the edge of town. She knocked repeatedly, fear tightening in her chest. When the door opened, she saw Emma with red eyes and trembling hands. Daniel lay inside on the couch, unconscious from exhaustion and untreated fever. He had been hiding how sick he felt, afraid of losing his job if he missed a shift. Catherine rushed him to the hospital, holding Emma close the entire time. She stayed through the night, pacing the hallway like a worried guardian. When the doctor finally said he would recover with rest, Catherine felt a weight lift from her shoulders she never expected to carry for a janitor she barely knew. But he wasn't just a janitor anymore. He had become a symbol of resilience, of humility, of quiet courage she deeply respected. In the weeks that followed, Catherine made sure Daniel received medical leave with full pay. She arranged support for Emma and visited them often. What began as gratitude slowly turned into something deeper, an understanding, a bond formed through storms and quiet gestures. Months later, when Daniel had fully recovered, life surprised them yet again. One evening, as Catherine sat alone in her office, a soft knock echoed on her door. She opened it to find Emma standing there, holding a small envelope with shaky hands. Inside was a drawing, Emma's drawing of all three of them standing under one big umbrella. Below it, in a child's handwriting, were the words that made Catherine's eyes water for the first time in years. "You saved my daddy. Your family now." For a woman who commanded thousands, those words carried more impact than any medal she had ever earned. And as Daniel appeared behind Emma, healthy, steady, grateful, Catherine realized how life had brought them together on a night no one expected. Sometimes the people who seem to have nothing are the ones who have everything worth holding close. And sometimes helping a stranger in the rain becomes the moment that rewrites a lifetime. If this story touched your heart, please consider supporting the video. Your love truly keeps these stories alive. Before the ending, tell me in the comments, which moment made your heart feel the heaviest?